Good morning. Let me take you back 10 years to 2002. Back then, I was at the Stanford Graduate School of Education, enrolled in a master's program on international comparative education. Our master's program coordinator and research professor was a Korean-American feminist woman called Kristen Min Wotipka. Among the books that Kristen asked us to read as part of the syllabus was one that was called Feminist Research Methods. Frankly speaking, I was not very fond of this fact, that we had to study a feminist research methods book just because our professor was feminist. So this one day, we're sitting in the class waiting for her to arrive, this witty idea came to my mind. So ours was a class of 12 people, out of which 3 were men and 9 were women. Of the 3, 1 was Japanese, the other one was Chinese, and me, finally, a Turkish man. So I took this white paper and wrote on it, United Men of Asia Against Feminism, and put it in front of me, in front actually all of us. So I asked them to sit with me. Kristen enters the room, she saws this paper, I know she noticed it, she doesn't give any reaction. She goes on with the lesson plan, we do the first half of the class, and then we go on a coffee break. Coming back from the coffee break, this is now our turn to enter the classroom, and we see a very significant change in that white paper. Now it's read, United Men of Asia, Understanding Feminism, and against crossed out. I still think that was a very smart, but also true move, because for that was the beginning of my journey to understand feminism, but also my journey of empowerment on gender issues. 6 months later, after I graduated, I found myself working in a new startup, social startup called Education Reform Initiative. It's a non-governmental think and do tank trying to improve education in Turkey. One of the first jobs, writing tasks, was to write a position paper on girls' schooling, together with Professor Çiğdem Kağıtçıbaşı and Sema Akboğa. Later, that paper will be followed by research and advocacy activities to advance girls' schooling and gender equity in Turkey. These hands-on activities, desk reviews, research papers, field visits, and workshops with stakeholders exposed me to our own national struggle to achieve gender equity in Turkey, exposed me to multi-pillar barriers before achieving gender equity in Turkey, but more importantly, very importantly, this journey exposed me to incredible, inspiring women from whom I really learned so much about how to be a better man, how to be a man who has more gender sensitivities than ever. Since then, since that first paper I contributed, I really felt privileged being part of this, this struggle, I would say. The women's struggle to find their own well-deserved spot in Turkey. And I have to admit, getting rid of your culturally embedded masculine Turkish identity is not easy. It's not easy. And to this day, I still find myself in times and positions when I fell short of where I should be. So that's a journey that doesn't end, nor that does succeed successfully, and it takes one's a lot of efforts, awareness, and care to really be a Turkish man worthy of the woman of this country. Turkey has achieved significant progress in ensuring that more girls attend schools. If you look at this gender parity index as well, we had only 7% of boys in terms of numbers of girls attending primary 10 years ago. This number is almost equal. So we are good in making sure girls start in school today. However, there are still out of children and unattendance. So absenteeism in the classroom is still a big problem. So, interestingly, although boys have more days of unattendance during the year, they're still able to graduate in bigger numbers from primary school. So we have more girls dropping out of primary school. Back in 2010, and imagine boys and girls start the first grade in equal numbers, we had 630,000 students, boys graduating from primary school versus 560,000 of them, which means we lost those 70,000 girls in between approximately the 4th grade and the 8th grade. So making sure that girls start school does not mean they will end primary nor secondary. They both transition to secondary at equal rates. However, if you control all other factors, economic, social, girls are still less likely in Turkey to start secondary school than boys. Based on 2010 data, I can tell you that 18% of women, 15 to 19 in Turkey, are literate but don't have primary school diploma, which means they started primary school, learned how to read and write, but dropped out of primary school. That's twice as boys. That's twice as boys. I mean, this is more 8 to 60% today. So, ladies and gentlemen, these differences are important differences, but more and more, they're not just limited to gender differences. So if you look at this graph and our further analysis point to regional differences. So it's critical to have an in-depth look at economic, social, cultural, and political forces that play out there. Based on our anecdotal evidence, based on our things, we doubt, and I can't be more precise than that because we don't have evidence in these issues, but we doubt that issues related to language of instruction, the mother tongue of children, but especially of girls, how expression of religion addressed in schools, so whether or not girls are allowed and able to wear their headscarves or veils in high school or in later stages of primary. Early marriages, or better said, child brides, do constitute or can constitute major barriers before girls' attendance to school after they enroll. So we're no longer talking about factors that are easy to handle. We're talking about much more political and sensitive issues. So in addition to school-based, obviously in addition to these factors, we still have important factors related to school quality, to families' education attainment, economic status, and so on. But these factors are quite important. So at one point, actually, we will be able to ask ourselves this question: do we want a child who's wearing a veil to sit in the classroom in high school if we know that you actually will make good citizens at the end of the day? Or is it our own luxury to say, no, we don't want girls with the veils to sit in the classroom? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves individually before discussing this altogether. So starting school is one thing. If you go to school, you don't necessarily become a better person. It's what you learn in this school that makes you a better person. So at the end of the secondary school, which is now compulsory in Turkey, we want all girls and boys to graduate, and to have the foundation for three things. For life, we want all girls to be active citizens in life and participate equally as boys. For higher learning, if they wish to do so, we want all girls to have the foundation to pursue higher education or even adult education later on. And three, for employment, for labor force. Those two are not necessarily compulsory, and not everybody has to do that, but they should have the foundation and the ability to make their own choices for themselves. We want all girls and boys to be critical thinkers, to know of their human rights, to be able to stand up for human rights of other people, to be able to have the empowerment to seek their human rights if they actually see they're violated. If we agree on that vision, ladies and gentlemen, if we agree on that vision, it's less important how they are dressed up in school or what sort of language of instruction they use. If we agree on that vision, we need to be more courageous. We need to be more frank about how we approach gender issues in education. As at this stage, Most of the remaining barriers are deeply embedded in our historical fears and politically very sensitive and polarized discussions. We need a new broad discussion in which girls and women from across Turkey participate and play a key role in transforming the discussion into a more inclusive discussion. So not only the education system should be inclusive, but these debates, these discussions should be more inclusive. I argue that we came a long way in building awareness on gender issues, increasing girls' schooling over the last couple of years. However, we're still short of ensuring all girls are in school, transition to secondary, and graduate from there. I'm concerned that this pathway will be more challenging as barriers may get more complicated, as I mentioned. Furthermore, our path to ensuring that girls and boys enjoy equal opportunities doesn't end there. We have to improve the curriculum, educational materials, train teachers, administrators, and policymakers. To make progress, it's critical that change agents are empowered. We empower ourselves, we empower each other for change. It's critical. We need not to be afraid or shy of some of the critical issues that will come before us in this journey. A discussion with and among all stakeholders need to take place before politicians intervene, especially male politicians intervene and try to fix problems in ineffective and non-sustainable manners. I want us in this room to focus on not what we can do to ensure more girls think and see the world like us. I want all of us to focus on how we can empower them to make the best choices for themselves and how we can all contribute to building a cohesive society in which all women enjoy equal opportunities as men. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling upon you to reflect on your own approach to gender empowerment and really initiate a critical inquiry about some of the issues that I mentioned. I mentioned about a window that Kristin Minvotuk opened for me. Sometimes all you need is really open a window and let the oxygen come into the room, and the change takes place afterwards. I was lucky enough to have such professor, and I was lucky enough to have met and worked with a woman, incredible and inspiring Turkish woman. I wish the same for all the other Turkish men, and we have to make sure that more change agents, more mentors are fully equipped to really take this Turkish man out of his masculine identity and turn them into worthy individuals of Turkish women. Thank you.